Hmm. Emosi. Apa? Mana? Hmm.
Good morning to everyone.
Madam, good morning, madam.
Good morning, madam. Good morning.
Shall we start, madam?
Camera is disabled.
Is it okay, madam?
Minolia, my camera it is disabled.
Yes, ma'am. I'm opening it.
Yes, ma'am. I'm seeing to it.
Done. You can open now. Can you see me?
Yeah. Good morning to all.
Good morning to
Good
everyone.
morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, madam.
Good morning, sir.
Madam, good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, madam.
Priyanka, madam, good morning.
Good morning.
Madam, can we start? Sharmila, madam, anybody else?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. Yes, madam. Akila.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, all. Good morning to the respected dignitaries, resource person, faculties, and all the participants present here to the 9th session of 5-day International Online Faculty Development Program 2023, organized by Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University in association with Dr. NGR Educational and Research Institute. I welcome all to the session. It is my pleasure to call upon Dr. P. Jagannathan sir, Assistant Professor, Department of Pedagogical Sciences, Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, to give a brief introduction to our resource person, Dr. Priyanka Datta ma'am, Assistant Professor, Department of Education, Vidanagar College, West Bengal, to present on the topic formation of rubrics. Sir, please, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. I am very happy to introduce our resource person, Dr. Priyanka Datta. She is an academician, especially in the field of education. Her research areas comprises of educational psychology, educational technology, and research methodology. She has achieved a first class in the Master of Arts and the Master of Philosophy from University of Calcutta, West Bengal in the year 2006 and 2012 respectively. She ranked first in West Bengal Public Service Commission Merit Panel in Education. Her teaching experiences covers 2 years in the school level, 11 years in the undergraduate level, and 2 years in the postgraduate level. Presently, she is serving as an assistant professor in the UG and PG Department of Education, Vidanagar College, under West Bengal State University, West Bengal. She has presented several articles in various national and international seminars and conferences all over India and have published in the referred research journals with impact factor. She acted as a resource person in 3 national level online seminars and workshops. She also acted as an expert member and chairperson in an international online conference. She is a member of the Ramakrishna Mission Institute of Calcutta, Goldberg, Kolkata, West Bengal. Welcome you, madam. Warm welcome you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your warm introduction. Good morning,
Thank you,
everyone.
sir.
I would like to thank our respected Vice Principal of Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University and MGR Institute Research in Educational and Research Institute, and all the dignitaries present in this workshop. Thank you so much for inviting me and allowing me to present my talk in this workshop. Thank you so much. Namaskar.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. It's our pleasure to present in such a resource person's session today. Now I'm handing over the session to Dr. Priyanka Datta, ma'am. Ma'am, please, ma'am.
Okay. I'm sharing my screen. Ma'am, give me 2 minutes time. I'll open my folder.
Sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
Sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
Thank Is the screen visible?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
madam. Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
So today I'm going to present on formation of rubrics. Is the screen visible?
No, ma'am, it's blank.
Screen sharing now, is it visible, ma'am?
It's visible, but it's not clear, ma'am.
Okay, as I'm opening the file, the screen sharing is getting paused. Can you help me with this problem?
Yes, ma'am. What do you want me to do, ma'am?
As I'm sharing the PowerPoint presentation, on the screen it is showing that the screen sharing is being paused.
Oh,
I hope your network side is weak, I think, ma'am. You may switch off your video and then play, ma'am. It may work.
Okay. Okay. Video to be paused. Can you see now?
no, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Current slide. Can you see?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
Kindly put
Thank
it in
you.
presentation mode, ma'am.
This is in the presentation mode.
No, ma'am. Ma'am, in your left side from beginning, is there no, ma'am? Just click it on, ma'am.
Can you see?
Ma'am, from your left side. It's saying from beginning it's there, no ma'am? Slide share. Yeah, just click it on, ma'am.
I clicked on it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. I'm starting, huh? Thank you. So today's topic is on formation of rubrics. Now, what is a rubric? A rubric is an explicit set of criteria which is used for assessing a particular type of work or performance, and it provides more details than a single grade or mark. Have you ever, your students ever asked you that why did you grade me that way, or stated that you've never told us that we would be graded on grammar? Have you ever faced this kind of questions from your students? If yes, then the first basic answer to this is rubrics. Why? Because as a grading tool, rubrics can address these issues and various other issues related to assessment. Okay, so rubric is a basic tool for assessment. What kind of issues you see? First, they reduce grading time. They increase objectivity and reduce subjectivity at the same time. They convey timely feedback to students. So it's a very essential tool because in this
Excuse
tool,
me,
as you
ma'am.
see, yes,
Ma'am, still your screen is in the first slide, ma'am.
fastest slide. Okay.
Please change
Kindly
the
give
next
me.
slide, ma'am.
Can you see?
No, ma'am. Please click on the
Okay.
second slide, ma'am.
This is the second slide.
It's not moving, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am, give me 2 minutes. Let me fix this problem. Give me 2 minutes. I'm putting my this on mute.
Sure, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Now it's visible, ma'am.
Okay, I hope it is visible now.
Yes, ma'am. It's visible now.
Okay. Now please see that I'm changing. Can you see, ma'am? See,
It's in
I'm
the first
changing the
slide,
slide.
ma'am. It's in the first slide, ma'am.
Now I'm changing one by one. See, is it? Can you see?
No, ma'am.
Fastest slide. Okay, can I continue? I think this is a problem. Can I continue with my presentation?
Ma'am, you click on the second slide, ma'am. It will change automatically. Left side.
Yes, I have changed. See, this is the third slide. Is it visible to you?
No, ma'am. It's in the first slide still.
This is in the. You can see the first slide.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, on your left, you have number of slides. No, ma'am. 1, 2, 3, 4. You click on to the second slide, ma'am.
I have come to the third slide.
No,
I think
ma'am.
there's a.
Screen is still in the first slide, ma'am.
I think there's a network issue then. Okay. I'm again stopping my presentation. Can I leave the meeting and join again?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Can you
ma'am.
see?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, please see, I'm changing the screen. So, are you able to see
No, ma'am.
one by one? Okay, then I'm leaving the meeting and I'm joining again.
Okay, ma'am.
Hope it works.
Dear participants, kindly wait for a few more minutes. I think resource person is having some technical issue.
I'm sharing my screen. Kindly enable me sharing my screen. Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. You're audible, ma'am.
Ma'am, it's showing folks disabled participant screen sharing. So kindly enable my sharing.
Priyanka madam.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it okay, madam? Others, you can share your PPT to sir.
I can share it to you.
To sir. Our registrar sir,
Okay,
we can, I can receive it from.
okay. I'm sharing.
In the meantime, we can present your PPT.
Mm-hmm. I have sent it to sir. I sent it to Naga Subramani sir. Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, I have sent my PPT to Naga Subramani sir.
Yes, madam. I receive it from him. You continue your
Okay,
session,
okay.
madam. In the meantime, we will present your PPT, madam.
Okay, okay.
Okay, okay.
So shall I start it from the beginning?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Okay, thank you. So as we know, today's topic of discussion is formation of rubrics. So what is a rubric? So as I told you before, that rubric is an assessment tool and it is used for assessing the performance of students, where we provide more details than a single grade or mark. So we usually face these questions from students that why have you graded me this way, or how have you like grade, how will we grade it on grammar or on essay? So to this type of questions, the basic answer is being answered by rubrics, because rubrics addresses these types of issues. And we see that it helps to reduce grading time, it increases objectivity, it reduces subjectivity. And the most important thing about rubrics is that they convey timely feedback to students, which is very important in our teaching learning process, right? So in this way, it helps to improve students' ability to include the required elements that we want to assess in an assignment. So basically, if we are asked to define what is a rubric is an assessment tool or a scoring guide. It is shaped like a matrix. Okay, it assesses and articulates specific components and expectations for an alignment. It helps to describe the levels of achievement in a specific area of performance, understanding, or behavior. So in which cases do we use rubrics? We use rubrics to assess a range of activities in any subject area for a variety of assignments, like, research papers, group projects, portfolios, presentations. So there are various uses of rubrics as we saw. Now, if you ask that what are the characteristics of good rubrics? Rubrics, when we design rubrics, it has to be well defined. Here, it's a defined assessment tool where we clearly define the expected student performance for each level. We use specific objective terms which involves behavior rather than general evaluative terms. Okay, so in which case each user of the rubric may define differently. Another important characteristic of good rubrics is that they are context specific. Here they define
Ma'am, your voice is not audible. It's breaking, ma'am.
Okay, can you hear me now properly?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And this makes the rubrics useful for instruction as well as assessment purposes. Now the question comes, what are the elements of a rubric? Now, in its simplest form, the rubric includes a task description. What is a task description? It's the outcome which is going to be assessed, or the instructions that students received for an assignment. Okay, so first is the task description. The second important element of a rubric in a simplest form which must have is that the characteristics are to be rated. And these are in the rows form. If you could have seen this screen, I could have showed you the example that how is it like. So in rows, the characteristics are to be rated. Third element of a rubric is the levels of mastery or skill, which comes in the columns. They are the labels used to describe the levels of mastery that should be tactful and very clear. Now, the commonly used labels which we use are like advanced, intermediate, high intermediate, novice, or sometimes maybe exemplary, proficient, marginal, unacceptable. So these are the commonly used labels which forms the levels of mastery or scale, and it comes in columns of a rubric. The fourth basic element which has to be there in a rubric is a description of each characteristic at each level of mastery or cells or scale. So next we see that what are the different types of rubrics. Now there are the basic six types of rubrics. The first is the analytic rubrics. What is an analytic rubric? Now it has at least two characteristics to be assessed at each performance level. It provides a separate score for each characteristic, like a score for formatting and a score for content development. So the basic components again of an analytic descriptive rubrics is task description, assessment criteria, and performance level. Okay, so these three components are there in the analytic rubrics. Analytic rubrics are also known as descriptive rubrics. Now, why will we use these analytic rubrics? What are the advantages of these kind of rubrics? Now, analytic rubrics gives detailed feedback along several dimensions. The dimensions which we are selecting for the rubrics, when we use this rubric to our students, we can get detailed feedback. Okay. Second is the criterion can be weighted to reflect relative importance of each dimensions. This kind of rubrics, that is analytic rubrics, are very important in promoting consistent scoring. They are useful for formative assessment when same rubric categories are used consistently. So this is the most important advantage of analytic or descriptive rubrics. But it also comes with its disadvantages because this kind of rubrics are time consuming to create and to score. And unless each point for each criterion is well defined, raters may not arrive at the same score. So this has to be designed carefully, and since it's time consuming, so it comes as a disadvantage for the analytic rubrics. Next, second type is the holistic rubric. What is a holistic rubric? As we can understand by its term, it consists of a single scale with all criteria to be included in the evaluation, which is being considered together. Example like clarity, organization, and mechanics, etc. So what we see, that holistic rubrics, in this case, the rater assigns scores, as I told you before, that from every dimension has to be scored. So in this holistic rubrics, since it is based on an overall judgment of the student work, so it assigns a single score. So holistic rubric, it's a single scale with all criteria, and here in this case, the rater assigns a single score, which is based on the overall judgment of the student work. And here the rater matches an entire piece of student work to a single description on the scale. So as we see that in analytic rubrics, what we were doing, they are putting separate score for each characteristic. But in holistic rubrics, the rater is assigning a single score, and it is based on an overall judgment of the student work. So next is, what are the advantages of holistic rubrics? Holistic rubrics saves time in developing and scoring, unlike the analytic scoring, analytic rubrics. So analytic rubrics is time consuming, but holistic rubric saves time. It is efficient for large group scoring. When written generically, these holistic rubrics can be used with many tasks, and they are very good for summative assessments. However, this holistic rubrics comes with its disadvantages, like it does not provide specific feedback for improvement about strengths or areas to improve. Why? Because it's based on overall judgment of the student work. So it is not possible for the holistic rubrics to provide specific feedback. So it is not useful for formative assessment, and as a result, holistic rubrics are not diagnostic. The another kind of rubrics is the developmental rubrics. Now, these developmental rubrics are a subset of analytic trait rubrics. But where the difference lies is this type of rubric is based on a theory of development. So as we see, the main difference which comes between, although this developmental rubric is a subset of analytic trait rubric, the basic difference is that the purpose of developmental rubrics is not to evaluate an end product or performance. Instead, they are designed to answer the question, to what extent are students who engage in any programs are developing the skill, ability, value, etc. So you see, here we are not evaluating an end product or performance as we are doing in analytic rubric, but in this developmental rubrics, we are trying to answer these questions, that how much have the students developed this skill, and okay, or the how much the ability the student has gathered. So these are the questions which are answered by the developmental rubric. So on the left column comes the domains, and on the right columns comes the levels of development, like the initial level of development, the intermediate level of development, the mature level of development, and is seen that how much ability in each case is being achieved by the student. Next is, now let us see what are the disadvantages. First, let us see what are the disadvantages of these developmental rubrics. Now, conceptually, this type of rubric, that is a development rubric, is difficult to design. Why? Because there always has to be a close tie between assessment criteria and the theory of development. But it also comes with important advantages, like developmental, in the case of the developmental rubrics, the grades are not assigned to assignment. So students don't have to finish an assignment to use it. Okay, so the teachers can use this rubric to see how much the student is progressing or how much the development has taken place without having students stress over the grades. So the student does not have this headache that they have to finish an assignment for the rubrics to be used on them. So this is the most important advantage of a developmental rubric. Next, another type of rubrics which is there is the checklists. Now, this is a very distinct type of rubric. Why? Because as you have seen from beginning, that in case of the analytic rubric, developmental rubric, holistic rubric, so there are dimensions. There are many dimensions, but in this case of checklist, there are only two performance levels possible. Like while using checklist, every decision is binary, like yes or no, we have to take in checklist, present or absent, pass or fail. Okay, so in what we are doing in checklist is that each aspect of performance and students' performance essentially becomes its own criterion. So if I don't know whether you can see the presentation. Is the presentation visible? Ma'am, is it being shared?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am,
ma'am.
it's visible.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay, can you kindly show the slide on that rubric for grading journal entries? So this is the normal rubric, right? Here we can see the criterion and the levels. But this rubric, if we can automatically convert into a checklist, like if you go to the next slide, we see that this is the same rubric which we saw in the previous slide is being converted to a checklist like this. Here you see it's binary. We are using yes or no. The criterion are given on the left side, and on the right side we can see that there are the two, the scale is in binary because we are using like yes or no, right? Okay, now let us see what are the advantages and disadvantages of checklists. As we can see from the checklist that it's very simple way to and a very faster way to grade than the traditional rubrics as we have seen in case of analytic or holistic rubrics. So what it does is that it makes the grading clearer to the students, and it results in less arbitrary and more consistent grading decisions. So checklists have the potential to in this way as they are being scaled. So checklist possesses this ability. It has the potential to raise the rigor of and students' performance on assignments. They happily tick on, and so what happens? It increases students' rigor to perform in assignments. However, checklists also comes with disadvantages, like it is generally longer than the normal traditional rubrics. Every performance element and criteria that are difficult to operationalize. Okay, they cannot be easily converted into a checklist. It also loses the middle, right? There is an intermediary to acceptable, and it's all these middles are not present because we are scaling the checklist in binary scale. So in this case, what happens that there is not a way to award credit to students who get most of the way towards achieving a criterion. So this is the basic disadvantage of checklists, but in spite of the disadvantages, the checklists are easier and faster way to grade the students' assignments. Okay, now the last two types are the generic and the task specific. These generic rubrics are the general ones which contain criteria that are general across tasks and can be used for similar tasks or performance. Here, in this case of general rubrics, the criteria are assessed separately, unlike the holistic one, which is done altogether on the student work. No, it is here the criteria are assessed separately. It has the merit of using the same rubric to evaluate many different tasks. We can use generic rubrics for evaluating many different tasks. So this is the most important advantage of general skill, but feedback may not be specific enough to dictate clear course of action. So in this case, where we don't want a proper feedback, there in that case, we can use general rubrics. But if specific feedbacks are desired, then we cannot use generic rubrics. So when should we use? When students will not be able doing exactly the same task, when students have a choice as to what evidence will be chosen to show competence on a particular skill or product, in these cases, we can use these generic rubrics. The last type I'm going to discuss is the task specific. If you can see by the term that here, this rubric assesses a specific task. Okay, not the similar task like the general one. It assesses specific task, and unique criteria are assessed separately. So what's the advantage? The main advantage is that more reliable assessment of performance can be done through the task-specific rubric. However, since it's a task-specific rubric, it is time-consuming to construct. Why? Because each and every criterion involved in a particular task may overlook a student's unique solution. This is also another disadvantage. So first is time consuming. Second is that we often these task specific rubrics overlook a student's unique solution. But in large scale contexts such as state level accountability assessments, task specific rubrics are widely used. So now as I discussed the different types of rubrics, now the question comes, which type of rubric should you choose? As an instructor, as a teacher, as a faculty member, which type of rubrics should you use? So as we will choose the rubrics as per its functions. Like for example, holistic rubric will be chosen when we want a quick an overall snapshot of student achievement. Then we'll go for an holistic rubric. When we want the detailed feedback about students' relative strengths and weaknesses to assess complex skills, or for self-assessment by students, in those cases, we will use analytics rubric. For determining level of development rather than quality of a final product, developmental rubrics can be used. We can use, when will we use checklist? To record observed performance and track progress over time. Now, general rubrics can be used to assess reasonings, skills, and products when students are not all doing exactly the same task. And to assess knowledge and consistency of scoring or assessing a specific task, then task-specific rubrics will be used. So you see that according to the objective of the learning outcome, we will decide on which type of rubrics we will select for assessment. Okay, next I will go on discussing the steps to develop a rubric. Now there are these are the basic steps, okay, that we generally use for developing a rubric. First is you have to select the performance or assignment which you will want to assess. Next, you have to enlist the criteria, okay. Third step is the criteria descriptions are to be noted down. Fourth step is you have to define the level of performance to be assessed. Fifth, you have to develop the scores. On the sixth step, you have to write the descriptors. And finally, you have to evaluate the rubric. So these are the basic steps for a basic, simple kind of rubric. Any general form of rubric, these basic steps can be followed. So one by one, I will go on discussing. Let us take the first step. So now we have got into the creation of rubrics. How will we construct a rubric? How will we develop a rubric? Okay. So the first step in this case is identify what you want to assess. For this purpose, you need to review the learning objectives. You have to identify what you want students to accomplish as the learning outcomes. So this is the first basic step for developing a rubric. On the second step, you have to identify the characteristics to be rated. And this comes in rows. As I told you in the beginning, that a rubric is like a matrix. It's like a grid with rows and columns, right? So in those rows comes the dimensions. So here you have to identify the characteristics to be rated. What are those characteristics? You have to specify the skills, the knowledge, the behaviors that you'll be looking for. But always remember that limit the characteristics to those that are most important to the assessment. In this way, you will be able to identify the characteristics which are known as the dimensions. Next comes the third step, where you have to identify the levels of mastery or skill. Always remember this, that always go for an even number like 4, 6. Why? Because when an odd number is used, the middle tends to become catch-all category. So just keep this in mind that when you're constructing a rubric, try to keep the levels of mastery or the scale for an even number. Okay. Next comes the fourth step, where you have to describe each level of mastery for each characteristic or dimensions. Now here the cells is being completed. So what do we highlight on this step? First, we have to describe the best work we could expect using these characteristics. Now this step describes the top category. Okay. We have to describe at the same time an unacceptable product. This describes the lowest category. So then we develop descriptions of the intermediate level products for the intermediate categories. So in this way, we describe each level of the category from the top category, then they come the lowest category, and then the immediate category. Again, a point to be noted that each description and each characteristic should be mutually exclusive. Please remember this. Okay, now comes the fifth step, which is add a descriptor or numerical score to each performance level. Like we can use descriptive words like beginning, developing, accomplished, exemplary. So there are various types of descriptive words we can use. We call this as descriptors. At the same time, we can give numerical scores 4, 3, 2, 1 like this to each performance level. So there are a number of rating skills we can use for grading students' work. So we can add a number or we can add a descriptor to each performance level. So at the sixth step, now it's time to practice using the rubric. So by the fifth step, what we see that our rubric is the designing of a rubric, the rows, the columns, the cells are all completed. On the sixth step, what we do is that we now we have to practice using the rubric. But remember that before using formally, what we have to do that this is an essential step of the rubric actually. We have to verify the rubric by using it to evaluate the previous student work. Or we can practice with students to determine if the rubric is clear, is it accurate, and whether it covers all potential performance. A very important thing in this step is that ask for student feedback on the usefulness and fairness of the rubric. So student feedback, as we know, is a very important aspect of this rubric. So this here, since we are before, finally applying or administering this rubric, you always have to verify the rubric. Okay. Okay. Next comes the seventh step. That is, before students are being assigned an activity that will be assessed, you have to share the rubric with students. Why do you why do you need to do this? It is important because we have to clarify what is expected in their work. We have to clarify the students. So we have to consider involving students in developing or evaluating a rubric. So what we are doing, we are considering their participation, their involvement when we are developing a rubric. So for in the seventh step, again, it's a very crucial step because here we are sharing the rubric with the students. Why are you sharing this? Just to clarify what is expected in their work. Okay. Next is the eighth step is assess students' work. Use the rubric to guide you in assessing how well students performed or their level of mastery in doing the learning activity or assignment. In the final step, after you are done with your students, now you on the ninth step, you discuss the rubric with your colleagues. You review the feedback and revise the rubric. How would you do that? You keep track of the strengths and weaknesses of the rubric as you see it to assess student work. This you can do by, I will discuss it further in my next slides. Okay, that you have to discuss your rubric with your colleagues. In this way, you can revise your rubric. It will help you to build a detailed rubric and also improve communication. So, what is important here is that when developing a rubric for program assessment, you enlist the help of your colleagues. Why? Because in this way, rubrics actually helps. It assists to promote shared expectations and consistent grading practices, which benefit the faculty members and students in the program. So we see that in doing so, especially the step 8 and 9, what we are actually doing, we are modifying the rubric. We are promoting shared expectations. It's not only limited to you who is creating the rubric, but also you are taking the viewpoints of your students, you're taking the viewpoints of your colleagues. So and their shared expectations are also getting reflected through this manner. In this way, it will help you to promote consistency in grading practices. Ultimately, we will see that a very good rubric is being created. If all the steps are followed, then it will help to develop a very good rubric. Now let us come to the scoring part. How the scoring rubrics, the group orientation and its calibration. A very simple thing. It's that when we are using a rubric, the teachers apply the rubric to pieces of student work like reports, oral presentations that we normally do to our students, right? So, but we have to remember that we have to produce dependable scores. And to produce dependable scores, each teacher needs to interpret the rubric in the same way. If you are sitting with your colleagues and when you're sharing, you have to make sure that all of the 5 teachers in the department is being interpreting the rubric in the same way. In this way, it will help to produce dependable scores. So this process of training the faculty members, the teachers to apply the rubric is called norming. This is the norming, the term which we use in rubrics. So if I say I'm repeating again, what is norming? It is a process of training teachers to apply the rubric. Why? What does it mean? This norming means that when we are sharing this rubric, okay, with our colleagues, we are making sure that each teacher is interpreting the rubric in the similar way. And what is the main objective of doing this? To produce dependable scores, reliable scores. Okay, so it's a way actually to calibrate the teachers so that scores are accurate. The scores are consistent across the faculty members. So this is a significant aspect of rubrics, that is norming. Next comes now what I'm giving you some suggestions that there is a few suggestions for testing and revising rubrics. Okay, so as I told you before that in the steps, as you have seen, that we need to revise the rubrics. And how do we do that? Okay, first is you score sample assignments without scoring sample assignments without a rubric and then with one. First, what you are doing, you are scoring an assignment without a rubric, one without a rubric and one with a rubric. Then what you are doing, you are comparing both the results. Second, what you are doing, you are asking your colleague to use your rubric to score student work, which you have already scored with the rubric, and then compare the results. Third, after they have given their feedback, then you see that whether your colleagues' feedback is in alignment with your rubric's grading criteria of your assignment and your course level learning objectives. Finally, to revise your rubric, finally, what you need to do, you discuss your rubrics with your students and determine what they do and what they like and what they did not like. So you understand from them what are their likings, dislikings, or if there anything to understand through the discussion with your students about your rubric. Okay, so this is in this way you will be able to test and revise your rubrics. Now, I have discussed this a little in a detailed manner that how can you develop rubrics interactively with students? Because this is a very essential aspect, right? So how can we develop rubrics interactively with our students? Students' learning experience can be enhanced. How? By involving them in the rubric development process. We have to involve our students. When we are developing a rubric, we always should remember that we must involve them. And in this way, if we do so, their learning experience can be increased. And how can you do this? Either you can do this in small groups. Okay, students decide upon criteria for grading the assignment. Now, this helps in providing with samples of exemplary work so they could identify the criteria with greater ease. Now, what is your role then as a facilitator? You just need to guide students towards the final goal of a rubric that can be used on their assignment. So the role of the facilitator here is just to guide the students so that it helps them to reach the final goal of the rubric, which you are finally going to use on your assignment. This activity, it not only results in greater learning experience, it also enables the students to feel a greater sense of ownership. They feel included in this decision making process. When you're creating or developing this rubric, the students have this feeling of ownership, and since you are involving them in the decision making process, it also gives them that feeling that, okay, I'm also being included in this important task. So you just, as a facilitator, you need to guide your students. So this entire exercise of your interaction with the students helps you to develop a very good rubrics, and at the same time the learning experience of the students also get enhanced. So now we move on to the developing part is almost done. Now, how will you use the rubrics effectively? As you see, you develop a different rubric for each assignment. So whether you develop your own rubric or you use an existing rubric, you practice with any other graders course to achieve inter-rater reliability. That which I told you before, that norming. Why is this important? Because it helps you to achieve inter-rater reliability. It helps you to produce dependable scores. Next is be very transparent. So earlier I discussed that with students, you're sharing your rubric, you're discussing with them, you're giving the students a copy of the rubric when you assign the performing star. So the students will never feel this way that, oh, I'm surprised. This is a surprise criteria. This rubric is not meant to be a surprise criteria. Just after doing, hand the rubric back with assignment. So you be very transparent with your students. Next is you integrate rubrics into assignments. Now, require the students to attach the rubric to the assignment when they hand it in. So first you are providing the rubrics with the assignment. Next, when the students are going through, after that, what they are doing, they are attaching the rubric to the assignment when they are handing it in. Then some instructors, what they do, they assess students or give peer feedback using the rubric prior to handling the work. Also, this can be done. Next step is leverage the rubrics to manage your time. So now when you have got the rubrics, when you mark the assignment, okay, when you have marked the assignment, highlight the achieved level of performance for each criterion on rubric. You circle on the performance levels, or you highlight all the level which you think is needed to be important or to be stressed on. So in this way, it helps to save a great deal of time, as no comments are required. You don't have to write pages after pages or a comment box. Just you need to highlight, because they are already defined the dimensions, right? So this helps to manage your time. At the same time, include any additional specific or overall comments that do not fit with the rubrics criteria. Outside also the rubrics criteria, you can add some comments. So this way you can manage your time. Next is be prepared to revise your rubrics. Decide upon a final grade for the assignment based on the rubric. If the work achieves highly in some areas, now, but in others, decide in advance how the assignment grade is actually derived. In some cases, the instructors use some formula, or some cases they give different weightings to various components. So what you have to do, you have to be very explicit about this right on the rubric. In this way, you should always be prepared to revise the rubric which you have developed. Another thing now, since technology is integrated into our education system, so always consider developing online rubrics. If an assignment is being submitted to an electronic Dropbox, so you may be able to develop and use online scores, from these rubrics. And what happens is that this becomes like an online grade book in the course management. So whenever you want, you can easily use the online scores from these online rubrics. The last is that when you have when you have a very good rubric in your hand, please do share it. Now let's move on to what are the reasons for using rubrics. Why should we use rubrics? Now, so far as I had discussed with you the concept, the types, the characteristics, and how a rubric is constructed. Now let us come to this question, that why should we use rubrics? We must use rubrics. Why? Because it increases transparency. It increases consistency in grading. It also increases the efficiency of grading. When we construct a very good rubrics, it helps to reduce the time. As teachers, it helps to manage our time, to reduce our time that we spend on grading assignments. So rubric increases efficiency. Rubric helps to manage time. It helps to save time. Thirdly, rubrics supports formative assessment. So when coupled with other forms of feedback like brief, individualized comments, all this, what happens? Rubrics show students how you can improve, where you can improve. So his performance, it helps them to improve on their performance. So rubrics should be used because it increases the quality of self and peer assessment, because peer feedback is also asked. No? So this way, rubrics enhances the quality of self as well as peer assessment. It makes them more meaningful. We can get effective rubrics through this purpose. Next is that rubrics helps to encourage students to think critically. This critical thinking is being encouraged very much, which is this in-depth learning, critical thinking. All these are very important now for active learning. Rubrics provides encouragement. It promotes critical thinking. How? By linking assignments with learning objectives. So ultimately, what we see that rubrics leads to overall improvement. It leads to objectivity. Here, the grading can be done objectively, so it reduces subjectivity. It reduces the students' concerns about arbitrariness in grading. So now let's see that how are teachers being how these rubrics can help teachers. In what way? We see that rubrics help assist teachers in assessing their assignments consistently from student to student. This consistency factor is always there. As I had discussed again, that it saves time in grading, both short term as well as long term. And most importantly, it helps to give timely, detailed, and effective feedback, which is very essential in the teaching learning system, and promotes student learning in a sustainable way. It helps the teachers in a way that it clarifies the expectations. Since you are sharing this while developing the rubrics, you had been sharing the rubrics with the colleagues, with the students. So what is the expectations? The shared expectations is been clearly in front of you. It's well defined. So you know what are the expectations of the teachers, or what are the expectations about the components of the rubric, but the components of the assignment. So in this way, both the teachers and the students are get both of them are for both of them the rubric becomes helpful. It also encourages critical thinking in teachers, because they have to think critically while setting the levels of performances, the criterions, so it helps also encourages critical thinking in teachers. It facilitates communication with others involved in scoring. Rubrics helps to refine teaching skills, learning activities, and finally, it refines the teaching methods by evaluating rubric results. So in a way, we see that rubrics is very helpful for teachers when it comes to assessing assignments. It serves them a very useful scoring guide for teachers. Let us again focus on how is rubrics helping the students. It helps them in understanding. The students find it helpful. Why? Because it helps them to understand expectations and components of an assignment. So it's helping both the teachers as well as the students. Rubrics makes the students become aware of their learning process and their progress, their improvement, how they are performing, their ability, their skills, their behaviors. All this progress they become aware about all this. So overall, rubrics help to improve work through timely and detailed feedback. So rubrics always give detailed feedback, always gives timely feedback. So all these feedbacks, how is it helping the students? It's helping them to improve their work, their performance in the assignment. So if I'd like to conclude, we see that rubrics are both assessment tools for faculty and learning tools for students that can ease anxiety about the grading process for both the parties, for both the teachers and the students. They lay out specific criteria and performance expectations for an assignment. Rubrics help students, teachers stay focused on those expectations and to be very confident, more confident in their work. As a result, creating rubrics does not require a substantial time investment upfront. Okay, but this process results in reduced time spent in grading or explaining assignment criteria down the road. So we see that it's a very helpful, essential tool for assessment in learning process. Thank you. So I end my presentation here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It's our pleasure to attend such a knowledgeable and academic person's presentation, ma'am. It was elucidating and enlightening session. Thank you, ma'am. Your presentation on how rubrics help teachers and students was very helpful, ma'am. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. If you have
Participants,
any questions.
participants, if you have any queries, please type it in the chat box. Ma'am, your presentation was so wonderful and it was so clear. They don't have any queries, it seems. So
Thank you. I hope I have fulfilled the purpose. I hope everyone has understood. Thank you so much. It's been a very, I'm honored to be present and put my talk on this workshop. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Dear participants, we have afternoon session from 2 to 3. After that, we'll have valedictory function. So we need you to attend all the sessions to get your certificates. So now I would like to call Mrs. Nandini for a vote of thanks. Nandini?
Yes, Akila, thank you. I am audible.
Yes, you are audible.
Thank you. Good morning, dignitaries, invited guests, respected teaching staff and participants who graced the 9th session of 5-day International Online Faculty Development Program organized by Tamil Nadu Teaching and Education University in association with Dr. MGR Educational Research Institute Faculty of Education. I feel very grateful to take this opportunity to thank our Faculty Development Program conveners, Professor P.C. Nagasubramani sir, Registrar in charge, Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University, and Dr. K. Geeta ma'am, Principal, Dr. MGR Education Research Institute, Faculty of Education. I extend my thanks to our organizing secretaries, Dr. V. Sharmila ma'am, Assistant Professor, Department of Educational Technology, Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University, and Dr. Sendamil Pavai ma'am, Assistant Professor, Faculty of Education, Dr. MGR Education Research Institute, Faculty of Education. It's my great pleasure to thank our research person of today's session, Dr. Priyanka Datta ma'am, Assistant Professor, Department of Education. I thank Dr. Jagannathan sir, Assistant Professor, Department of Pedagogical Sciences, for introducing the research person for this session. I am feeling overwhelmed to thank all the participants on behalf of Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University and Dr. MGR Education Research Institute Faculty of Education, who cherished and made this session a successful one. Thank you all. Thank you once again. The feedback link was posted in the chat box. Participants, you can put the feedback link.
Thank you, Nandini.
Thank you, Akila.
Dear participants, kindly join the session 10 minutes in advance in the afternoon session. During duration of the validity session will be 30 minutes. So please fill in the feedback form. After that, you will be receiving your certificates. Thank you.
Shall I leave?
Thanks a lot, madam. Very good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I'm really sorry for the technical hitch, ma'am.
No problem. No, usually it will natural and automatic. No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good day. Have a good day. All of you. Thank you.
Dear participants, daily you will be daily 100 certificates only we issued. So it will take nearly 1 week to you will receive a certificate within a week.
Participants, you all be in the group for 10 days. Because regarding a certificate, if you are not receiving, we'll post all the information only in the group. Kindly don't personally call us or personally message us. It's very difficult to answer for everyone. And evening feedback link is more important. Those who are filling the feedback link of after validatory, and then with that number, your mail ID, it will be sent. So only 100 per day they can able to send, it seems. So patiently you wait for in the group, don't exit out of the group. Thank you very much for all of you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Dear participants, it's an important announcement. Afternoon session is going to start at 1:50 p.m. followed by valedictory session. Kindly join the session 10 minutes earlier. Duration of the valedictory session will be 30 minutes. Feedback link will be shared after the valedictory session. Those who have filled the feedback form will be receiving your certificate through email. Thank you.